Okay, so I'm back from a long hiatus. It's been about a year or so. Thought I wanted to maybe make a video again, kind of nearing the end of my semester and have a little bit more time than usual, so I thought I'd do something different and kind of follow up on my last video where I talked about my experiences as a Japanese American living in America, growing up bilingual, and how I've lived, yes, these past 21 years of my life. So let's go. So I kind of wanted to start off by talking about how Japanese people view Japanese Americans. So I think it's a little bit nuanced in a sense that it's probably different. The experience is different for individuals, like anything is. But for me, when I grew up in America, I often visited Japan to see my grandparents from both my mom and dad's side. Oftentimes I would go stay at my mom's side longer than my dad's, so I would go to school. So I first started going to Japanese school in Japan around age 4 or 5, something like that. I started off in like preschool, kindergarten. That was fine. I didn't know what the heck was going on because I was like, what, 6? Something like that. Wait, I just said I was 5, whatever. However age you start off, I was like 5. And I didn't know what the heck was going on. My brain was still mushy and still forming because I'm 5. And I was like, oh, I love Japan. Or maybe I didn't even have like this acknowledgement that I was in Japan. I just thought everything was the same. I was like, where's all my white friends? But I went to school, it was fine. Everyone treated me like the same. At that point, my Japanese was better than my English. I spoke more Japanese at that time because my parents spoke to me in almost solely Japanese. So that's why I thought of myself as solely being Japanese. But when I came back to America, I didn't feel any kind of difference in the way people treated me. I felt like I was just one of the students in the class, just doing their thing and being a kindergarten, first grader, whatever it was. And then I finally got to elementary school in Japan. That was a little bit different because suddenly I'm more cognizant of who I am and those people around me, despite being 6 years old now. There's a little bit of a difference between kindergarten and first grade because first grade, once you enter into elementary school in Japan, things start to have a little bit more structure. There's a lot more rules and there's a lot more things you have to remember about. And at that time, I don't know if I had many friends in Japan. So just from first grade to 6th grade, I just went every year after school in America would end in April or May. So like during the summer, I would actually go to Japan to go to school again during summer break. Yeah, it kind of sucked, but it is what it is. It happened, and because of that, I was able to have this unique experience of going to school in Japan. But during my time there, I felt like a lot of the students treated me a little bit differently. I became to acknowledge that as soon as I was introduced to the class, my 4th grade year or 5th grade year, something like that. Obviously, I would have to come in to school while the academic year has already begun. They start in spring, so every year you go into a new grade during the spring. Unlike in America where you start in the fall. So in Japan it's spring. I am there around summer-ish, so they've already started their academic year. And I'm kind of this like new kid that's like from America, but I look like them, right? And I am kind of them because I'm 100% Japanese. I was just born here. By blood, I am you, but they treated me differently. Like they're like, look at this foreigner kid, right? He's so special, or he thinks he's so special, so let's treat him like crap. And that's often what happened to me. I remember not wanting to go to school because of the way they treated me and the way they looked at me. Like the first few days that I was going to school, they would maybe talked to me because they were interested in me and kind of asked me like the generic questions like, oh, you can speak English, how do you say this, or where do you live, blah 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 blah, which is cool. I thought I was like this like really cool like kid, but I realized after a few days everyone just lost interest in me and they kind of just left me. And I think in Japanese school life, the idea of forming friend groups is so important and so crucial to how the rest of your school life is going to be. If you don't find your place in school, in your grade, then it's kind of hard for you to find that place as it goes on. Friend groups are pretty important in Japan. People stick to each other and depend on each other. So if some other foreign being comes into play, it's common for them to fend off unwanted third-party things. So that's why it was hard for me to kind of find my place in Japan while I was going to school. Thankfully though, I was able to find one person or two people, maybe two people. I don't know if this person was a friend, but one person was kind enough to me to become my friend, and we would have little play dates and stuff, and I would go to his house and bring chips and drink tea and we play video games, and that was awesome. And we even got to go to like an onsen and other things that we did, which was really fun, and I really appreciated that. And I think without him, I would have had a really bad time going to Japan. But like I said, there's a really strong clique culture in Japan school life that's really hard to break. So kind of felt like I was just this new class pet that was introduced, and people had this interest in me for a few days, and then after that it's just like same old hamster in the back of the class that just whatever. That was basically me. I was just a hamster and I just did whatever. And yeah, so 1st grade to 6th grade is elementary school in Japan. So after I graduated from elementary school, I went to middle school naturally, and middle school was a whole nother ball game because suddenly you have to wear uniforms, and their language level is obviously more complex than those people in elementary school. So the insults hurt more, if that makes sense. So like their insults are more creative and it hurts a lot more. And for someone who doesn't fully comprehend maybe Japanese sarcasm or Japanese just like play, it hurts just coming from outside and being called a foreigner, or like to go kill myself and stuff like that. And I guess that was like normal thing to say if you're around that age to each other when you're just like messing around, but I'm like not used to being called that, so I took that personally and it hurt a lot. So that made me not want to come to Japan again. So I kind of just lived through that, and my friend that I had in elementary school went to a different middle school, so I'm kind of just like stuck. Yeah, it wasn't fun. Again, I was introduced as the kid from America. He looks just like you. Oh my gosh. And then people talked to me for a little bit, and then bye-bye. Like, they left me. I'm the hamster. Goodbye. I'm sitting in the back of the room, just twiddling my thumbs, being alone. Yeah. But anyways, I stopped going after my 2nd year in middle school, 3rd year in middle school, something like that. I never got to experience high school, which is one of my biggest regrets, I think. A lot of the trauma that I experienced from elementary school to middle school just weighed on me so much that I was like, there's no way I am going to school in Japan anymore. But I kind of regret it. I wish that I would have been able to at least experience 1 year of being in high school in Japan, because I heard it's completely different. It's like not the same as obviously elementary and middle school, and it's what Japanese people call seishun, which is like youthful, is a literal translation, I guess. Youthful, blossoming flowers. That's the imagery here. Like the best years of your life. Oftentimes, Japanese adults would reflect upon their seishun and think about it nostalgically and as their best time of their life. which opposed to, I feel like in high school in America, a lot of the times, a lot of high schoolers who graduate kind of hate their high school life. I mean, Japanese people, I'm sure, have their own grievances with high school, but the majority of people believe that their high school life was the best and the most fun. That's where you have the most memories, you make the most out of your time there being at school. So I didn't get to experience that, but I think through like anime and stuff, which is obviously a glorified, grossly glorified version of seishun and the idea of being a young adult in Japan, but through them through the anime I watch, I live vicariously the emotions, I guess, that I would have maybe had. Okay, so now that I didn't have to go to school anymore in Japan, my time that I spent while in Japan visiting relatives became a lot more dull. Because when I was going to school, I had to like wake up in the morning, get dressed, eat breakfast, and go to school. Come back, do homework, sleep, repeat, right? And now that I don't have school anymore, I didn't have anything to do. So I would just sit on my computer and just do whatever the heck I want, I guess, at home in Japan. And that was kind of boring. So again, I didn't look forward to going to Japan, which is such a snobbish thing to say, I understand. But from my young, very immature brain, I thought that it was not worth going. Looking back now, I wish I would have taken more chances to go, because there were several times where my mom just went where I just stayed at home. Yeah, I kind of regret that as well. Okay, so one more thing actually. So one more thing about being Japanese American and being fully Japanese is that when you go to Japan, if you don't fully understand the language, it's kind of hard to figure things out. I mean, okay, so basically what I mean by that is that I can speak Japanese to a good extent, but obviously not to the level of someone who's been born and raised in Japan. And so being born and raised in Japan means you're used to, say, means of transportation. In this case, I'm referring to the subway. So I'm like completely lost on how to use a subway, and like, to make matters worse, I am the worst type of person to be giving out directions. Like even here in America, even though I drive often, I have like no sense of direction. Like I'm very directionally challenged. So if you were to tell me to maneuver and figure out how to work the Japanese subway station, I'm gonna end up in China, like somehow, I don't know. But basically, when I go out and I want to meet a friend that I know is visiting, or I just want to plain go somewhere, I have to ask for directions, right? I can do that, I can say that in Japanese. But when I ask them and they see me, they see this face and they're like, you're Japanese, in their head. You're Japanese, why don't you just figure it out? Read the signs, right? Read the whatevers. I can, but I just don't, sometimes I'm just like, I can't. I need someone to like point and or even guide me and just like, this one goes here, this one goes here, but it skips this stop, or like this train just goes straight to the end, so be careful. I understand the logic behind the different types of trains. Like people have to get somewhere in certain amounts of time, and some people have free time so they can just use the normal train. But like, I don't. Basically what I want to say is, it's hard for me to ask for directions because they give me this look that I should be able to figure it out myself, which is true, but I just still want some help, okay? I just want to ask to be sure. Because if you go on a train, one, you're spending money, right, to go somewhere, and also you're spending time to ride that train. So if you end up somewhere you don't need to be or don't want to be at, you have to figure out how to get back, and also that takes more time, more effort, and you just get tired of it. So it's hard. And obviously Japanese people are nicer as a whole, but that's just like sometimes not true. Okay. People are people. Okay. You can't just like attribute this whole generic stereotype to each individual person, because that's just how life is. All right. Japanese people as a whole are nice. Some people aren't nice. They tell you to go figure it out yourself and give you this like weird look. But yeah, that's basically my life, what I've come to experience throughout my life growing up. Obviously now with everything going on with the pandemic, I haven't been able to visit Japan, but the experiences that I've had growing up, going to Japan, are very real. They make me who I am today. And so from these experiences, I hope that I'm able to recognize perhaps the opportunities that I've missed in the past, so that from here on forth, I can live my life with the minimal amount of regrettable moments possible. So yeah, thanks for listening. I got a little bit long. Just listen to me in 2x speed. But peace. Deuce.